Okay.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock and we have a quorum of the Freetown Planning Board members present. So I will call the meeting to order. Before we get started, I will read the governor's order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Freetown Planning Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Freetown's website, freetownonme.gov. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Freetown's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Lord, I think we only have one more meeting after this, and I'm going to have to read that. So that being said, meeting's been called to order. Let the minutes reflect which of the members that are here tonight. So we have Bob Joes, we have Jim Freites, we have Chris Mello, Dave Croce, and is Deb Robbins here?
Not that I can see.
All right, Deb's not here. So, and myself, Kevin Damaris, the planning board members.
I think she's joining right now.
All right, perfect. So Debbie's here. So we have a full complement of members here. And so the applicant, you are here and you're represented by an attorney. And if you would be so kind as just to identify yourselves and your role in the project, please.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeffrey Angley. I'm a lawyer here at Phillips and Angley, and I represent Ironwood Projects LLC, and I also represent Mike and Karen Costa, who own the land that we're talking about here at 0 Brady Road in Freetown. So, and then with me this evening are members of the development team for Ironwood Projects. That includes Adrian Ortlieb, Greg Dixon, Ian Jukes, and Dale Knapp. And if I've forgotten anybody, Hamilton Carrier. So there's a number of people, I'll stop there. I'll keep going. You let me know what you want.
No, that's fine. I just want to, also we have with us Attorney Jonathan Silverstein from Copeland and Page. Right, John? How are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing well. How's everybody?
Very good. Thank you very much. And thanks for helping facilitate this meeting. For
Jeffrey? Hello, Jeffrey. This
Hello.
is Cynthia Thompson. I'm the other owner of the property.
Is that the sister of Mike Costa, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my apologies.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. So we're here for a preliminary discussion conversation relative to a proposal for a subdivision off of Costa Drive. The board members, if you don't have it in email, you could certainly go to our website, and it is on our webpage under the boards and committees, planning board. You'll see on the right-hand side, excuse me, meeting materials for tonight's meeting, and you'll see a singular PDF, and that's what we're discussing tonight. So if you have any type of presentation that you would like to make, we'd be happy to hear it.
Well, yeah, so of course. So thank you so much. On behalf of
Sure.
Ironwood and Cautions, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you folks. And I'm going to try to keep my comments short because I'm not the center of attention in this case. The plan and the engineers that designed it, they are. And I also want to thank Attorney Silverstein for helping us to organize this as well. So what Ironwood Developments seeks to do is to develop a ground-mounted solar facility and on 2 parcels of land that are owned by the Costa family. And that land is at 0 Brady Road in Freetown. There are 2 parcels. There's a parcel right off of Brady Road, which is about 14 acres or so. And it's lot 53 on Assessor's Map 241. And there would be the easterly parcel. And then there's a westerly parcel. And why there's two parcels is that there happens to be a railroad track that goes right through the Costa property. And that railway was laid out in 1839. And when the way was laid out, there were rights that were reserved to the owners to pass back and forth. Now, this rail line is now part of the South Coast Rail Line Expansion Phase 1. And the Costas have always maintained the access right over this road. That's been acknowledged by the Commonwealth. So the Commonwealth actually has designed a rail crossing between the two Costa parcels. And so as you'll see, and that data has been incorporated into the plan that you're going to see. But at any rate, and I do apologize, 'cause I don't have the exact date, but this land was owned by Mr. Costa, Mike and Cynthia's father, who's a longtime resident of Freetown. He bought this land, and the family bought the land in the 1920s. And so back, I don't have the date. I was trying to find the plan, and I managed not to be able to locate it. But Mr. Costa, Mike and Cynthia's father, he actually permitted a definitive subdivision plan that's called Costa Drive, which is off Braley Road. And so this provides access up into that 14-acre parcel that I've spoken of, and then it ends in a cul-de-sac. And so what we are proposing to do, and why we're here before the board, is that we are looking to extend Costa Drive over and across the railway track in order to create some frontage on that lot on the west, westerly lot, the lot on the other side of the track. And this is so that we can, comply with the frontage requirements under the zoning bylaw. And just a slight digression, why we're here is that Ironwood had gone to the zoning board and asked for a variance in order to get zero frontage to be able just to do the crossing and develop that rear lot. The planning board said, fine, you can develop the front lot, but not the rear lot because you need frontage, and they denied the grant of the variance request. So my office, on behalf of Ironwood, we filed an appeal in the land court. That case is pending. But honestly, rather than fighting over whether the bylaw requires frontage or not under the solar exemption under Chapter 48, Section 3 or not, at least I came, I think some others did, came to the idea, well, look, why don't we create some frontage by extending the definitive subdivision plan, because it looks like it's such a, and we'll get into it later, but such a modest, amount of traffic that would have to be going back and forth, almost none once the project is built, that it just seemed like a great way to solve a problem. And so we're here to ask you help us solve a problem, which is to make this rear lot conforming to the Freetown zoning bylaw frontage requirements. I mean, I don't want to have a fight about whether the frontage is required or not. Just saying, let's just create the frontage and end the fight.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah. So that's where we are. And so what I think that
Right.
Having said enough, I think that what I'd like to do is then turn this over to, I think it's going to be Greg Dixon, because Greg, they designed this plan, which you folks, have before you. And so we're hoping to have this, shown to you and get your comments and any questions. And also, if there's anything we missed in terms of waivers or things like that, we just want to have a good conversation and try to get this right. So, Greg.
Yeah, if I could though, and this may more be a procedural deal, but the conversation tonight is generally relative to the actual creation of a subdivision, right? The Form C plan.
Yeah.
I understand, and I think we all understand. We've been briefed on this. We've had a meeting, and I think we're all acutely aware of what the final outcome for this project, or what the intent is.
Yeah.
But keeping in mind that the solar component and aspect, that is a completely different filing, and you folks understand that. And so if we're going to talk about details, I think that we should probably keep it more to the expectation of the road construction. Do the lots actually meet our frontage requirements, our upland requirements, and things of that nature. We understand the end result is the intent to put solar there, and that should be part of the general conversation tonight relative to consideration of waivers, sure. But relative to the actual construction and location of things within relative to the solar, I think that's a conversation to be held during that public hearing. And again, keeping in mind, and Jonathan, please correct me whenever I make a mistake or you think I'm going down the wrong path. But even waivers that are discussed tonight, generally this is going to all be by consensus, right? This is not a Form B or Form C public hearing. So those types of things, those final decisions must be made and during the public hearing process. So I think the planning board generally, this isn't the first time we've had these types of conversations, and we are, I think, comfortable giving general guidance and consensus with, you know, our comfort level with what you're proposing. But to get into the minutia of, you know, the exact waiver wording and all, I think that needs to be held at the public hearing. So I appreciate me being extra. I hope you appreciate the fact that I need to be a little extra cautious on how we do these things with respect to the open meeting law.
Absolutely right. I thank you very much for that. And we certainly understand that this is an informal meeting to get the board's comments and engage their, you know, their interest and concerns.
Okay, great. So you said it's Greg that's going to be speaking next?
I believe it's going to be Greg.
Hi guys,
All right.
I'm Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Dixon.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys? Civil engineer
good,
on the
thank you.
project. I was
Okay.
wondering either if we could get the plan up on the screen or if I could share my screen.
You want to do a screen share? Yeah, Chris, go ahead and let him do a screen share, please.
Should be able to do it right now.
Perfect. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
So I do apologize after the conversation we just had. The solar array is on this plan just for, we haven't created a separate plan, but trying to just show everything at once. But what we are trying to do, as Jeff mentioned, is extend Costa Drive with a new right of way, sort of shown here. It would be, we are asking for quite a few waivers on this road. It doesn't meet kind of the standards which are outlined in the code. Those waivers that we are asking for are these ones, and the reason we're asking for them is, one, to kind of minimize disturbances, minimize stormwater, also minimize, the most specific one is a wetland crossing that we have right in here. So we are kind of reducing scope of the road because to what is needed for this specific use, and not really thinking of any other use besides that. So we are asking for quite a few waivers when it comes to the road design. And so that's what we're looking to do. But this new road would cut in through here with a 30-foot right of way. It would create 3 lots, one on the side of the western side of the railroad. And then because it bisects the front lot, it would create 2 separate lots on the eastern side of the railroad. And then we would develop kind of the western side and the eastern side. It does involve a railroad crossing, which we have had conversations with the railroad and have also incorporated some of their planning for future development of the railroad. And so we have kind of looked at some plans that they have given to us to kind of do some of that, or not work against what they plan to do in the future, and kind of work with them. We expect to see very little traffic down in here once the project is built. And so the road is kind of, the road and the waivers are designed for a small amount of traffic traveling very slow, and not really your average traffic street with 2 lanes and cars traveling 25 or greater miles per hour. It's more of a 1-lane kind of extended driveway, for lack of a better term, with one track and kind of slow moving, thinking like between 10, kind of 5-10 miles per hour, just getting down and out there. Also, again, trying to just limit scope with this. So trying to like reduce the amount of clearing needed, reduce the amount of impervious needed out there, and reduce some of the impacts to the environmental features on site. This would create plenty of frontage, obviously, on the two eastern parcels, and would create upwards of, I think it's 435 feet of frontage on the western parcel. The property owner and the project owner understand that these waivers would be very specific to this one use, and would agree to something along those lines, that they have no intention of having this subdivision come in and then develop anything besides what we plan on developing on the site. So that's kind of why we're asking for the waivers to the road, because it will just be used to develop the site for a solar array. And the reduction in road, I think, kind of allows just that to happen and not really anything else. That's kind of
Sure.
the bulk of what I had to say. I'm kind of bringing up that
Could-
waiver request.
Could I just ask you,
Yeah.
Greg, maybe to address, like, explain, like, what's the road, what are you proposing for road surface and the actual road width and drainage, things like that?
If
Yep,
I
so-
could, who was just speaking? Sorry,
Oh.
Greg, hold on.
Sorry, yeah, so that's all, that was Jeffrey Angley. The,
Oh, okay. If you could, again, because I don't recognize the voices, if we could just
Oh.
state your name before you speak again, so I'm not losing track of who. So
my apologies, Jeff Angley, my
no,
apologies.
no worries, sir. No worries. So yeah, Greg, and I'll piggyback on Jeff comments. So what we're looking at typically, right, for subdivision control is how wide is the layout? You know, what are our regulations? There's a certain width on the layout. You're obviously looking for a reduction on that. You're looking for a reduction on the actual construction detail, right? So keeping in mind this is very preliminary. I don't know if you have a proposed construction detail. So you know what I'm saying. What's the road depth? What are you proposing? You know, for your your subgrade and then your top grade. And let me ask another thing, and because this has been going on for a while. You had provided the board with, I think, some waiver requests, did you not?
Yeah.
Well, they were written, right? So, Chris, if you could, if you have the ability to do it while the meeting's going on, if you could find that email that was sent to us from those folks and re-email it out to board members, so if there's something that they need to cross-reference, if you will.
Kevin?
So yes, sir.
Sorry, it's Jonathan.
Jonathan. Yes.
Chris, I am going to email you just the waiver table because the
Yep.
email itself has some settlement communications between me and Jeff Angley that I don't think should be put up.
I apologize, Jonathan.
No
Yeah,
need. So
Okay.
I'm going to do that right now.
All right, thank you very much. So obviously, Mass General Law allows you, or subdivision control law, or whatever, it allows you on the stormwater management side of things, because it's 4 lots or less, you don't have to adhere to the stormwater management. So I get that, but it doesn't look like there's, and again, these are preliminary. Are there any stormwater management engineering practices that are going to be put into place? So that's probably something that we need to look at. It's tough because it's a 1 in 100 scale, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's tough to even put on there a detail for swales or anything like that. But I will tell you in general, where we have waived the requirement, whether it's by right or not, where we have waived the requirement of certain road construction, whether it be gravel or what have you, we have always asked that there be some sort of way to do some stormwater management relative to water quality,
Mhm.
So some swales maybe that would increase residence time, the ability to have things settle out from that before it ends up there. I know you probably won't have much runoff because of the type of construction. And if that's the case and all, then I think we're going to need to see those types of things. Obviously, the road, and someone's going to have to correct me here, but is it the horizontal curves there where you're making those almost 90-degree bends, if you will? Those obviously are going to be outside, I think, or at least one of them will be outside of our regulations. So you'll be looking for waivers on that. You said that the lots that are being created, they clearly have enough frontage. They clearly have enough overall land. I'm assuming, again, looking at the scale, that both of them are going to have minimum requirements for upland. It's contiguous upland and that type of stuff, right?
Yes.
It's 70,000 square foot for the lot, 50,000 upland, of which 30,000 has to be contiguous.
Yeah, and that
So-
was, I do have a question on one of sort of the eastern lot. This right of way will separate the eastern lot. I was hoping that we could still maintain that as one lot, but I guess that would be another waiver request because the northern portion of the eastern lot is quite a lot of wetlands.
Well, in theory, and I get it, and again, somebody smarter than me is going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, but the logistics of this are, you are in essence really creating 4 parcels because the remaining land, i.e., or not i.e., but the remaining land, the road layout, right? That's going to be a parcel. That'll have its own parcel ID. That'll be taxed differently, or well, I shouldn't say that. God bless the assessors, but I believe it gets taxed differently, right? So it would hard to maintain any kind of connectivity between the two, right? So I think, a matter of practicality, it has to be 2 lots. Obviously, when you come in for the solar permit, we are looking at it as all one project, right? And so all those separate lots will have to be listed on that application and has to be provided. It has to be shown on the plans. But for the purposes of the subdivision, I believe those have to be 2 lots simply because they're going to be separated completely by that 4th parcel, which is the road.
Okay.
All right.
So
Yeah, Jeff Angley, just a kind of a question, because
Sure.
I haven't, thought it all through, but certainly that if we take that eastern 14-acre parcel and it's going to be divided by the roadway, looks like the upper portion of that is going to be mostly wetlands. But have you seen, at least in Freetown, where you just denominate that as not a buildable lot? So that it's not like
I will answer generally yes. That on the regular, no. We have the ability to do it under subdivision control. Absolutely, we can do that.
Yeah.
But on the regular, no, it doesn't. It may have happened once in my 20 years, so that I can recollect. I'm going to assume that that's 14 acres. So let's just assume it's 7 acre and 7 acre. I think you've got 30,000 square feet up the most easterly portion of that, just from looking at it. I don't know that to be true or not because there are no dimensions on this plan. But you certainly would have over the 70,000. And so you'll have to take a look at that, obviously, when you do the engineering on it,
Yeah, I think we could make it work by just maybe changing around the orientation of the road. So I think I can definitely make that work.
Okay. And if not, again, you're well within your rights to ask for these things, right?
Yeah.
So you can do that. You have the right to do it.
Yeah, and to answer some of your other questions, we do plan to do stormwater mitigation for the project, just because of sort of where we're at in the project right now. I haven't fully designed or detailed that out. My intention is to do grass, road line swales. We don't have a lot of grade out here. So the intent would to be put those in very shallow slope swales, really slow the water down. And then if needed, a detention basin to kind of have the flows for the different storms equal pre-construction would be the plan. And then sort of also passive stormwater management within sort of the solar array, using a very robust vegetation and kind of letting that vegetation grow, i.e. maybe only cutting the grass 2 or 3 times per growing season, really letting it turn more into a meadow. We haven't fully developed that yet. We're kind of still working on that stuff, but that is in the plan and in our scope. As far as, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Greg, and that's fine because again, this is a general conversation, preliminary conversation. So I think really what we're trying to do is talk about what we're going to be looking for. And I'm going to ask any other planning board members who have comments or questions to please join in. So yeah, this is a very general conversation. So as long as we know, I think, or as long as I know that it's going to be addressed in the future. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to go through conservation also. You've got a wetland delineation that needs to be confirmed, you know, which is gonna help before you can come up with your final numbers for your lot sizes and also. So you were gonna make another point, Greg, I apologize.
My only other point was to discuss the road a little bit more. The road does kind of fluctuate. In general, we're looking to maintain a 16-foot wide road. There is one location I mentioned at the wetland crossing where we are going to reduce the road to 10 feet. And that is to use a precast sort of concrete bridge to kind of bridge a wetland and a stream that are on site. And so we're looking to reduce the road width to actually be able to use something like that at that location. Besides that, all the other roads would be 16 feet wide. And then actually, once we get up to the railroad crossing, to maintain what the railroad would like to do in the future, we are intending to increase the width for the railroad crossing and for the turnaround on the western side of the railroad. We will increase that width to 24. And so kind of minimize the road getting out to that location and further minimize it over the wetland crossing, and then have the 24-foot wide road that the railroad was looking for, and to have more space to turn around as well. As far as depths in the road are looking, just because of what we intend to travel out there with and kind of the lack of travel out there, we were looking to only kind of dig out about a foot and install just a foot of gravel, and just instead of the 24 inches, but still use road fabric and everything like that. There's multiple other things sort of in that waiver list that I go through to kind of hit each point of the waivers that we're asking for. We are actually meeting the minimum horizontal curve. The vertical curve is the one we're not meeting. And that again is at that very specific location of the wetland crossing where we just have to really go up in elevation to get over that wetland and over the stream and then come back down again. And so at that location, you'll see a little bit more of a vertical curve jump. Again, trying to hold the K values and the vertical curves to as large as possible, but also realizing that on this road, we don't really expect high speeds. And so I don't really expect to see a lot of cars sort of jumping off of that area.
Yeah, and again, my comments relative to just making sure that you're asking for those waivers, right? And you've obviously laid them out in the waiver requests, but I think since we're we're having this meeting, it was good to talk about that. So
for sure.
Does anybody from the board have any other comments or questions?
Kevin Bob Joes, Vice Chair of the Planning Board.
Hey,
So on the road, you are, and you said this yourself, that you're expecting to only use the road for the purpose of construction at first, obviously, but afterwards maintaining the solar project. And we're asking for all those waivers. Would you be willing to put something either in the deed or on the plan that says this road shall be used for this purpose only, and will never be turned over to the town, never be tried to accept it, to be an accepted road and or used as a residential way. Because of the size of the road, the dimensions, the type of materials, the depth. Is that something you're interested in doing?
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff, if you'd like to.
Yeah, Jeff Angley, yeah, absolutely. That's certainly a reasonable condition because of the waiver request, and we only want to use it for solar. We certainly want, and that's another reason. I mean, we don't want anyone to think they could ever develop this for anything other than a solar field. So yeah, that kind of condition is perfectly reasonable.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the planning board have any questions at this time?
Kev, yes, this is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
The road will be designed to accommodate any fire apparatus we have in town as well. Will we be required to get the fire trucks down there?
Sorry, this is Greg. I think a lot of the waivers that we are requesting, some of those might have to do with fire access and fire safety for specific vehicles. I'd be more than happy to work with the fire department to try to evaluate any of the fire trucks or any of the other stuff that they would need down there. Yeah, we haven't evaluated the exact truck that you guys have.
So that's a good question, Jim. So I'll just make a blanket statement. We are very adamant here locally on the planning board that there is access sufficient for any and all apparatus that may be required to go out there. So I would encourage you to reach out to our fire department. I can tell you on a side note, having done a number of these things, solar permitting in general, there's a concern with the new technology, battery storage relative to accessibility, confined space. How do we fight that type of fire kind of deal? So the fire department in the future is going to be, we're going to, I think, give a much more weight to their comments should they make them, go in the future. We already do that. So I would suggest before you actually do any kind of Form C filing that you reach out probably with the fire chief or his designee to make sure that whatever you're proposing is going to be able to accommodate, because to Jim's point, they are going to have to go out there should there be a fire. There's never going to be an instance. And I think we'd be hard pressed to set up a situation where they couldn't get the proper apparatus in there to do the job. Just keep that in mind.
Yep, no, I would be happy to work with them. That there's nothing of super height out here either. So maybe they have some vehicles that don't need like the full.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you they have multiple brush breakers. So listen, if they had to, they would drive right through your solar field if they had to. I mean, that's just, I mean, they'll drive right through the wetlands if they have to get there. That's the reality.
Yep.
But at the same time, there's tanker trucks that would need to get down there. There's going to be, are they going to go down there with their ladder truck? Maybe not, probably not. They wouldn't need the aerial there, right? I get that. But if you're going to have tanker trucks that are going to be going out there to, and it might not even be at your facility. It might just be something that there is a forest fire that is out there, or with the train that comes by, a spark happens, and now you want to have your assets protected too. So if you want your assets protected, it would be best in your best interest to make sure the fire department can get there. So I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else from the board? I just think, and I can appreciate the overall footprint of the road being narrow relative to its wetland impact, but we are addressing this on a couple of other current filings. We understand how this type of construction works, right? Big vehicles initially go in and they stay there for a while. and when I say big vehicles, I'm talking about the land clearing stuff, right? You'll have logging trucks that'll be coming out unless you're going to process all that material on site, and I can't imagine you're going to do that. So, you know, it needs to be adequate for that. It also needs to be adequate should you have one truck coming in and one truck exiting. That's an awful long stretch of road to have, you know, some sort of standoff between trucks. So you may want to consider where, in fact, there's not going to be any direct wetland impact, that you may want to consider widening the road in a way so that should it be multiple emergency vehicles, should it be multiple construction vehicles coming in and out, that your proposed roadway can accommodate that.
Yeah, maybe creating some pull-offs on either side of that.
Some, yeah, you know, right. Some pull-offs. I mean, I could see what, you know, the initial couple 100 feet there, while you may be working somewhat within the buffer zone for most of that, the overall wetland impact, let's face it, short of that road there and the solar, there's no other development on those lots. You know, we're not putting houses in there. We're not asphalting it. You know, it's not a lot of storm water. So, you know, if wherever you think you can widen that road, I think to a width that would accommodate multiple vehicles. Because again, I can just imagine, you know, trying to come around, get in there, and now what do you do?
Yeah, this is Dale Knapp with BRI. I think Greg's actually, your schematic demonstrates fairly well. Some of these areas with the lines on them along the road, you know, those are all going to be used for staging. And then prior to the panel being placed there, they'll have plenty of room for that timber harvesting equipment to be staged and managed kind of inside the site when they're active. And then obviously those could remain as grassed areas to be used as pull-offs for emergency vehicles or even staging emergency vehicles in the event of a situation that requires that.
That's, yes, I was thinking that too, but and so, like I said, I just in general, we're giving general comments here. In general, we have tried to ask applicants to make it so that there's safe passage should a couple vehicles come, you know, at the same time. Whether that's through pull-offs, whether that's through widening it a bit in some areas, you know, softening radiuses, whatever the case may be. So just keep that in mind going forward again when you start to get towards the definitive plan. Let's just check the turning radiuses, obviously, at the cul-de-sac. Again, keeping in mind, you're going to have some tractor-trailer traffic that are going to be coming in here for the racking systems and things like that, right? I don't know. Again, not to get too much into the actual solar stuff, but a lot of those battery storage units and all, they come as a self-contained unit, if I'm understanding correctly. So sometimes that'll be delivered on a larger truck. So we understand that it's not all the time, but when it does happen, we just need to make sure that we're doing it safely. That's all.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else on planning board? No? Okay. So is there anything else specific that you would like to talk about? I think you're hearing from the board and well, how about I do this? By consensus, board members, planning board members, by consensus, are we all okay with the overall concept, the general ideas of the waivers that are going to be looked at and requested? And are we comfortable with what's being proposed? And if not, is there anything outstanding that you are adamant that gets addressed now?
I personally don't see any red flags or stop signs to stop them from proceeding to the next level and filing Form C on this.
Thank you. Jim, you have any issues?
I don't, neither do I.
All right, thank you.
Kevin, I'm good too.
Thank you, Deb. Chris, is Chris Knowles here, right? Yeah.
I'm all set with it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, Jeff, I think you've heard from the board members, unless you're looking for anything much more specific. I'm hoping that that's going to be giving you enough information and providing you a direction to move forward.
Yes, so Jeff Angley, yeah, thank you so much. I agree that that's great. That's what we were looking for, was input from the board and a general consensus that we were heading in the right direction. So I think with that, I think we can task the engineers to reach out to the fire department, get the data on what they need to accommodate emergency access, and then we'll start working on tweaking the plan and getting the drainage set and all the other criteria you'd want to see on a definitive subdivision plan, modification plan. So.
Right. And again, to Bob Joseph's point, when you come in with the definitive plan, and I think you've also made that comment too, that obviously it won't show the solar on there.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But certainly we've already talked about the fact that we either could condition it, you certainly could, make notes of it on there that in fact, roads never to be accepted by the town, and that the intended purpose of creation of this subdivision is for the sole purpose of solar. Should there be any other derivation or if you derivate from that plan, then it would render it invalid, if you will, or it would not be an approved subdivision.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So it's right. Someone would have to come back to the board and ask for a ask for a
Yeah.
modification.
It would that would be a whole and I think you understand that if this was being created, and I think there was an initial concern, right, by just doing it blanket, here's a subdivision, that anything could then be built back there. So it is certainly going to be conditioned, caveated, restricted to solar at the end of the day. I will make one more point, that we, as always, reserve the right to send this for engineering and peer review. Obviously, with the amount of waivers and us having an understanding of what we're doing here, I don't know how much of a need there will be, but I will tell you that the planning board does reserve the right, should there be an instance or an issue that they want to have reviewed by peer review, that we would still be able to do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because certainly the solar is going to get peer reviewed, and it, and more than likely the conservation filing is going to get peer reviewed, at least relative to the accuracy of the wetland delineation. So, those two things. But I just wanted you folks to know that we still obviously have that right. So, is there anything else, Jeff or Greg or anyone from your side that would like to add any comments, or they have any questions for us?
I think we're all set. I think we're all set.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sometimes less is more, right, attorney?
Yeah, right. Right, exactly right.
Jonathan, do you think, is there anything that we should be doing right now, or you think we've done our job?
No, I think this was exactly the purpose of this meeting. I guess one question I had while listening to the conversation about fire apparatus is whether the board generally, or at least in this instance, will want to see auto turn analyses done for the fire apparatus, because that's probably something, rather than taking the time subsequent to filing of the definitive plan, the applicant could be working on that, once they consult with the chief.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I maybe we should have been more specific with that. However, it needs to be demonstrated. So you're right. If they need to get into the geometry of and to show that on a plan, I think it'll be helpful to have that when you're presenting your case, if you will, to the fire chief and the fire department. Again, we may at minimum, my only thought was we may at minimum say, what are they proposing for the subgrade and the top grade, right? We may, given the soil conditions out there, we may ask peer review to just give it a look over. I'm not saying we're going to. Again, that's something the board would vote on, so that in the future, it's not one of those things where over time it goes out there and now it starts to become something where it's sinking into the wetlands, or we have a situation where somebody could get stuck. I'm sure that's not how you're designing it, Greg. I'm just saying, we want to make sure that that's not going to happen. So, any and all pertinent and relative information that you could provide relative to the access for safety equipment, for your construction equipment, and for how the road will stand up to those vehicles. I think you'd be well served to present that information to us.
Mr. Chair, I think if the applicant had questions and concerns and they wanted to get a jump on it, they could ask the board to send it to peer review at their request, if that's something that they're questioning on whether it's something that's going to fly or not fly and wants peer
Sure.
review to take a look at it. Also, they could just petition us
Sure.
and we could send it to peer review for them, if that's something that
Right.
they think might speed up the
Right.
process if there's something they need to, if they're worried about.
That's a good point, Bob. So we have also done that in the past, guys, where, and it typically, again, a mechanism for receiving money from you, typically it would be on a Form B or Form C submittal, or actually a preliminary plan submit, official or preliminary plan submittal. We could do it that way too, where we would collect funds from you if there was something specific that you thought, hey, we should probably have this looked at, and all. If you have any questions, you could certainly email us and through the board, through the office, through the planning office, and that can be disseminated out to board members. And if board members had an individual concern, they could send back to Chris, hey, yeah, I think this might need to be looked at. We'll talk about it at our next meeting, or something to that effect. So you can just let us know how you want to proceed
Sounds good.
once you get closer to the
Great.
final product. All right. Jonathan, I don't imagine that there would be any need for us to go into executive session at this point in time then.
I don't think so at this point, unless the board
Uh,
has anything they want to talk to me about.
Do the board members have anything that they would like to talk to Jonathan about, specifically about this issue in an executive session? I know
Well,
I
about-
don't.
I don't.
What's that?
I do not either.
Would you say? Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. That being said, again, if there's nothing else to add to this, then I certainly appreciate everybody coming and taking the time. I know it's an off night for planning board members, and I know it took a little wrangling to get us all together at one time in one place. So appreciate everybody's efforts, and look forward to working with the applicant in the future. And if you need anything, please contact us.
Right. Thank you
so-
so much, all board members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Don't fight over it. Motions are made and supported to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Deb Robbins.
Aye.
Aye. Jim Freight.
Aye.
Jim Freight's aye. Chris Mello.
Aye.
Chris Mello, aye. Bob Joes.
Aye.
Bob Joes, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. The meeting is adjourned. Jonathan, thank you very much for everything. I do appreciate it. And Dave Croce, thanks for being here, my friend.
Have a great
Have a
night.
great night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
We'll see you. Yeah, bye-bye now,
Thank you.
guys.
Here you go.